Teydis? What are you talking about? This was this was Tira now speaking. She hated Teydis. That'll probably come out for reasons. What 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 are they doing interviewing Teydis about my museum? You know, it wasn't her museum. Of course, it was the effort of especially Yeoman, but she put her heart into it, and she couldn't believe it. What were they thinking? Uh, and she said, "Can I look?" And who's that? There was a picture, on the front of it. Is that supposed to be Teydis? Uh, Apparently, what had happened is the interviewer hadn't had a camera with her, and Teydis had supplied a picture, emailed her a picture, and he'd gone and got some old picture of him before, when he thought he looked better, before he started to wear his toupee. He didn't, back when he had back when he had dark curly hair, it just didn't look anything like him. What was he thinking? But half the time he wasn't thinking. I suppose that's Teydis, and of course it was. And she looked further and saw that there was a comment at the top of it from the editors of the Hoot saying, "Opinions expressed in this interview are not ours, nor are they the views of any of our staff." So sort of like a disclaimer before they got into the interview, and she sort of skimmed down through it, and apparently the interview, she saw her name there. It was Janine Kelly was the unfortunate young woman who had this interview, and I can tell you this because I know elsewhere that for her part she'd been kind of shell shocked when she went to interview this man, because she didn't know what to do with it. Half the time he didn't even make sense what he was saying, and he was raging, and he said the same thing over like 2-3 times in a row. Didn't actually say that much, but he just said it over so many times she hardly knew what to do with it, and told her boss, when she came back with the interview, she said, "I did the best I can," and he knew what she meant, but they decided to run it anyway. I don't know if that was wise. Well, what was I saying? So anyway, Janine Kelly, had asked just asked basically one question, maybe two, of Teydis. Well, what do you think of this new museum? Well, that was all it took. He took off. He says it's a disgrace. That's what it is. It's not just a disgrace, it's a national disgrace. It's an international disgrace. This is no museum. The roof, just take the roof for example. Look at that thing. It sticks up like a sore on our city, and it's all these different colors. It looks like a patchwork quilt. It looks just like they couldn't afford to buy a real roof that would all be the same color, and so they went and got all these different pieces of scrap and put them all together. That looks terrible, and it isn't really a museum at all. It doesn't have walls. It doesn't have heating. It doesn't have air conditioning. What kind of museum is that? Its floor is asphalt, and like I said, the walls are nothing but canvas. And you know what? I think there was child abuse involved in those walls, because those kids, somehow I heard that the kids put all those, what do you call them, those metal things where the rope goes through, grommets, I think they're called. Those poor kids, they had to put all those grommets in there so they could lace the walls there. Canvas walls. It's absurd. It's no museum at all. You know what it is? It's a pavilion, a gallery. Maybe you could call it a gallery, because it doesn't have a permanent collection. And I drove by, to see, to take a look. I thought it was my civic duty. This is Teydis going on now, and Janine Kelly writing it down as best she could. And I looked in there. It doesn't have a front wall. It doesn't have a door. Just a sign that said baskets. And you know what was there? Cardboard boxes hanging everywhere, and plastic laundry baskets and Easter baskets. That's what it was, and they call that uh, a show. People can see that anytime. It's a disgrace, he said, and a hoax. That's no museum. They've been had. The people of this great city of Richland, the good people of this great city of Richland, have been hoaxed. He was really kind of wound up about it, and he said, and you know, it's free. Well, that sounds good, but in a way, but you know, and I know I'm all in favor of ethnic. You know, ethnic, ethnology, ethnic. I think that's the same thing. Ethnic. You know me. I'm a big fan of ethnic. You got to have ethnic. Otherwise, who's going to do all this work that needs to be done? But when you have a building like that, I'm not going to call it a museum, with canvas walls and no door. You know, somebody with a sharp knife could just go along and cut all the clothesline. That's what they used to lace those walls up. How are you going to keep the general riffraff out? He said, well, I'll tell you what, Tara could barely contain herself. She was getting madder and madder. She said, I hate that man.